Welcome to Drummer Mamas. Thank you for being
Thank you for
here.
having. Thank you for having me on Drummer Mamas. Great.
Your drummer, Papa. Um,
Drummer Papa. Yeah.
you've been playing since you were very young. I wanted
Yes.
to know what your parents thought about that.
My parents,
Yes.
they were actually my mum wasn't into the idea, I'll be honest. My mum definitely wasn't into the idea. She was more about me being a doctor or going into the army or something. I'm like, that's so not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. Trust me, that's not gonna happen. And so she's she said, "Oh, all right then." So I kind of said, "Look, I'll go into business. I'll do stuff to do with business and all that kind of stuff. Business studies. So she was into that. So that was cool. So that was fine. My dad was fully into it. My dad was fully into it. He was always been very, very supportive of me being the drummer from way back. You know, because of, they thought that it was just going to be a fad
Mm.
originally. They just was going to be a fad, because I've been drumming since I was quite young. But you know, banging on the telephone books and on the floor, using my mum's coat hangers and stuff, the parents' coat hangers and stuff as drumsticks. So it was all quite uh, what's the word? DIY. That's the word I can use. It's all quite DIY. Starting in my drumming kind of career, not career, my drumming road, my road to drumming, and they were, and I never actually got my first drum kit till I was much older. So, but they were behind me fully
Oh, was
once
there
I
a
got it.
ah? So was there a moment when you decided, right, this is I want to be a drummer as my career? Was there a single moment?
Yeah, do you know what? It was actually when I was, I'm going to say when I was about 12 or 13, around about that sort of age. Just turned a teenager, and I joined well, not joined, kind of became part of a band on, which was a bunch of mates on my road where I lived in Tottenham at the time. And I thought, you know what, this is actually what I want to do. And it was from round about that sort of age because I really enjoyed drumming and listening to music. So it was about that, yeah, round about that, 12, 13. And it was very what's the word? When you do you do things because you just enjoy it. And I really enjoyed just drumming and listening to music. No matter what was going on outside, no matter what my friends wanted to do, play football, all that kind of stuff. I didn't do that. I just wanted to stay in and listen to music and drum. Yeah.
Nice. And is that the moment where you had to kind of say to your mum, "Hey, I'll do some business studies as well"? Like, did you sit them down and say, "Right, this is it," or was it like an
Oh
internal
gosh, no,
knowing?
no, 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 no. Because 12 or 13, I had it in my mind what I wanted to do was be a drummer and basically do it as a job. That's what I wanted to do at that sort of, that age. When I was 14, um, that's when it was really ingrained in my mind that this was my career. And it was at that point when I said, Mum, I want to be a drummer. And she said to me, well, I think you should do your studies and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, be a doctor, all that kind of stuff, or join the army. I was like, no, that's not going to happen. And then she said, right, if you want to do the drumming, because I'd asked her for a drum kit before when I was younger, and it was an absolute no-no. If you want to be a drummer and do all that, you're going to have to basically buy your own kit.
Oh.
Yeah, super, super strict. My parents, they were cold-hearted. No, no, they weren't really. They were really cool. No, no, they were cool actually. They were very, very cool. No, they were very supportive. Once they knew that's what I wanted to do, but when they said, right, you've got to buy your own kit, I was like, right, okay, do you know what, that's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna buy my own kit. So I still had to wait a couple of years till I could start work. to start
Wow.
saving for my own kit. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
commitment though, isn't it?
Oh gosh, yeah, yeah.
Can
When I
you
got
tell
me
us
set on it.
how old were you when you joined Jamiroquai? Like, how did that all kick off?
Oh, okay. I say I was around about. Well, I've been in the band for 31 years. Let's put it that way. So 1994, something like that. That's when I joined. That's when I joined the band, basically. And I was with another band called Urban Species at that point, a hip hop band that was signed to Talking Loud, and I was touring with them. Did a couple of recordings with them. Um, kind of programmed their touring set and all that, did all that kind of stuff with them. So I was quite involved with it. And then I got a phone call after a few years. I got a phone call from uh, uh, the head of A&R at EMI Publishing, a guy called Guy Moot. And he said, "There's this band called Jamiroquai, and they're looking for a new drummer." At the time, I actually didn't know who Jamiroquai was. That's the honest truth. I actually didn't know who they were. I know that they had an album, but I didn't know the name of the band because I just knew the Buffalo Man. I just saw the Buffalo Man. When I was actually going to rehearsals with Urban Species, I'd see the big the sign posted with the Buffalo Man on it, and just thought, oh right, okay, that's cool. What is it? So I didn't know, didn't have a clue, and then I got the phone call to go to the auditions from their manager, which was in Shepherd's Bush at the time, studio there, and I had and I was the last drummer on the last day because I had 2 days of auditioning drummers, and I was the last person on the last day, believe it or not. Um, and they and I rolled up, uh, and I hadn't even heard the tracks. I was listening to the tracks in the car on the way to the audition because I was rehearsing with the with the Urban Species on the same day. So I said, oh, guys, I've got to go. I've got a meeting. So anyway, left, went there, got there, listened to the tracks on the way, and luckily the tracks I listened to were the tracks that they played in the audition. So we played Too Young to Die, Emergency on Planet Earth, and When You're Gonna Learn. Those are the three tracks that they played. Played them great, and the manager was standing at the back of the room, listening, getting into it. It was cool, and so was Wallace, the didgeridoo player at the time. It was cool, all good. And then this other guy came in and stood up next to the manager, just stood up there listening and stuff. Then he walked out. Then he came back in, and I was still playing jamming with the guys. And to be honest, I didn't really take much notice of who was coming in and going out because I was just kind of enjoying the playing. And then the guy that was coming in and going out actually came forward and said, "Hi, my name's Jay." I'm like, "All right, mate, how's it going?" And I just sat back, like literally just over the top of my head, just didn't notice nothing. And I just ended up just carried on playing. Yeah, just carried on playing, enjoying the vibe, playing with Toby and Stuart and the guys. It was good fun, you know. And then he picked up a mic, and I thought, oh, okay, he's obviously a singer. And then he started singing um, "Too Young to Die," and that's when I recognised the voice. It was at that point I recognised the voice, and then put the voice to the face. I went, "Oh, so you're the guy that sings the songs, right? Okay, it's your voice that I hear on the radio, right?" So, and that was kind of how it kind of all kicked off, really. And then I had to do a second audition, um, which went well. It was quite a long audition. It was more of a jam, to be honest. It was more of a jam, and we ended up starting to write. Starting to write for the next album, the Space Cowboy album, basically. In that audition, and the first track we came up is the first track that we played in that audition was Just Another Story, which ended up on the album.
Wow. 31
Yeah,
years is something's gone
yeah,
right, definitely.
yeah, yeah. I should get a clock or a watch for that, shouldn't I? Really? Do you know what I mean?
So, how old were your children when you joined, or had they even been born yet?
So Jenna had been born at that point. She was very young. She must have been about one or something, or one. And so I was very lucky because I was touring with Urban Species, did the audition, and then was did the audition, and then I had to wait for a bit. I had to wait for a couple of weeks, and then I had to start recording with the band at that point. A couple of weeks later, Jenna was one. She was not quite ready for nursery yet. Do you know what I mean? Because they actually took the kids, the nursery that was close to us at the time, they took kids in at like 1.5, 18 months, maybe just over. They took them in early. So we were very lucky that we could actually send her to care. Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't like just a couple of hours, it was like all day, you know. So mum had her free time and then I could go to work. And luckily the nursery was close to home, like walking distance as well.
Right.
Sweet. Did you always want to be a dad, and how did that look to you alongside your career as it was unfolding?
Oh, yeah, I've always wanted to be a dad. Um, but um, I never really thought about it. Do you know what I mean? I just wanted to be a dad. Do you know what I mean? And then deal with it once it happens. Do you know what I mean? Because Jenna, she's now 32. She's going to be 33 this year, and um, I think I was just into my music. I'll be honest with you. But yeah, I always wanted to be a dad. But her mum was a few years younger than me. Mum's a few years younger than me, but and I don't think she was ready to be a mum either. Do you know what I mean? So when we found out that Jenna was gonna, be born and her mum was pregnant and everything, we kind of just dealt with it. Do you know what I mean? We were just like, oh, it was great. We're very happy, and we just dealt with it. Yeah, I never went like, I don't want to be a dad. I'm not ready to be a dad. I just accepted it. Do you know what I mean? I accepted it and was very happy about being a dad. To be honest, it wasn't until Jenna was born, and then I thought, okay, how am I going to manage this? Be the dad, boring, da da da, all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? You know, um, but I was the first. Yeah. Actually, I was the first one to be a dad in the band at the time. Yeah, I was the first one to be a dad in the band, and then Stuart, I think, was the next one, and then Toby. I think in that order.
What was that like then? Did you like, I know for me, when I have had kids and I've been in a band, I was
Yeah.
wondering whether I should tell them. Was there ever that thought in your mind when you knew you were going to
What?
be a dad, like telling the band? Or were you like, no,
Oh
I'm
gosh,
telling
yeah.
them straight away?
Yeah, I just told him straight away. Yeah, yeah. Well, in fact, when I joined the band, Jenna was already born, wasn't she? Jenna was already born. So they were that. People ask questions, didn't they? Whatever, this, that, and the other. And then then I'd say, "Oh, my daughter." Do you know what I mean? They'd be like, oh, "You got a kid?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's nothing strange." Yeah. They're like, "Oh, good for you. Nice one." They were really cool. Actually, very, very cool about it. Yeah. Yeah, because I think that they also wanted to be dads as well. Do you know what I mean? Um, so, but I was the first one to be a dad. But I was the first one who was a dad. Do you know what I mean? Because Jenna was already born and everything. It was great. Yeah, Jenna would come to the studio as well.
I
Yeah,
love that. I love that
yeah,
so
she'd come to the,
much.
Yeah, yeah. She'd come to the studio, hang out, sit on the drums and all that. Yeah, great.
That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that that's what it was like.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It wouldn't be. I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest. You know, I wouldn't have it any other way. And the guys are very, very supportive. They're very family orientated. Do you know what I mean? All of us, all family orientated. So it was all good. It's all good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Jem.
When there were so many of you who had children in that band, that must have just been a totally different dynamic. Was it kind of like a part of the band and like scheduling stuff? Did you think about your families as well, or was it very
Yeah.
separate?
Well, when you're with the band, because that is your job, because now it's a full-time job, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So, and then of course we've got a schedule to keep to recording, delivering the album, all that kind of stuff as well. So we have to admit, I'm going to say, all the mums in the band are great. Do you know what I mean? Because they dealt with us coming and going a lot. Do you know what I mean? So we just had to continue doing our job, even though it's a very uh, different job. It's a very different job, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Because you're not working 9 to 5. You're working 10 until 2 a.m. the next day. So it's quite heavy on our other halves. Let's put it that way. It's quite heavy on our other halves. But they were very supportive and were willing to deal with the situation. Do you know what I mean? So we had to. But one thing we did do was weekends was always off. So we'd only work Monday to Friday. Weekends was off, no matter what was going on. Weekends were always off. Then we're back in the studio on a Monday. Yeah, that was a rule. That was the thing that we always stuck with. As a band, we stuck with that as well.
Wow.
Because we got kids. We've got to spend time with our families and everything. So it wasn't like 7 days a week in the studio at 10, coming back at 2, 3 in the morning, sleeping, getting up, then going out again. Because that would be too much. So it was quite nice to be home with the kids on a weekend, and that's when it was super busy. That's when it was super duper busy and very intense. That's so we're talking earlier on in the career, in our careers. And even when I was I mean, when I was with Urban Speech, of course, I didn't, well, I had Jenna at the time. So her mum had to kind of work with what I was doing as well, and, and she knew. She dealt, she dealt with it. She accepted it. I didn't force her to accept it. I didn't force her to deal with it, but she knew it was my job. She knew I was a full-time musician. That's what I did. I didn't do anything else. That's all I did. That's all I know to this day. So it was an acceptable situation.
Do you remember the moment that you found out you were about to be a dad?
Gosh, you're going back a few years now. Let me think about this. Yes, I do actually, because what had happened was, me and Jenna's mum, we were together for a while, and we weren't trying for a child or anything like that. It just happened. Do you know what I mean? And then, of course, she was. It's the whole kind of monthly thing. Da 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 da. Missed, and then I was like, "What a feeling, pregnant." I'd said that in my mind. I didn't say anything. And then and of course, we spoke about it and stuff. Got the test kit, did the test, found out that she was pregnant. And it was we were fine. We were really cool with it. We accepted it. We were like, oh, great. we were happy, you know, very happy. So it was all good. It was all good. It was all good. It definitely wasn't like, oh my gosh, what we're gonna do, It was just like, let's just deal with it because it's what we both wanted anyway. You know, it's both what we both wanted at the time.
How was it for you touring and when things were really busy and having a young child? Like with and without technology, because now it's a lot easier to be in contact with people like this. But yeah, at the beginning of the band, then it wasn't quite the same. How did you get around that?
Phone, phone calls, you know, just made phone calls because that was the only way that we could, you know, could communicate. So it was literally mobile phone. Back then, you know, there wasn't like the roaming package, all that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? You know, it was more like getting the time differences right. So if I'm in America and then I have to call home, we were like 5 hours behind. Do you know what I mean? All that kind of thing. So I'd be calling in my morning, like 4 a.m. My morning would be like 10 a.m. in London. You know, so I would that's how we communicate, just through phone calls. I do at one point I was quite expensive to call with the mobile phone, right?
Yeah, I
So
can imagine.
it was like buy a phone card with I don't know how many dollars on it, and then you'd go to a public phone box in America, and then you have to go through the whole code thing, dial the number, put in the code, then dial the number, dial the number to London, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, gosh, I do remember. This is a classic. I do remember we were in a town in America, and I wanted to call home, and it was a public phone box, and I didn't have the cards. Didn't have the card. And I couldn't find a card anywhere, but it just so happened that I had a bunch of 25 cents, a bag of 25 cents, you know. And so what I did was I made I don't know how this. I can't remember how this worked, but to, I rang the operator and said that I wanted to do. Is it? I don't know if it's called a collect call or something, but I had to put money into the machine, right? So she said, "Well, how much money have you got?" I'm like, oh, "I don't know. I've just got a load of 25 cents." So she says, "Right, put them into the machine because I can see what you're putting in." I'm like, "Okay, all right." Anyway, I put all of them in. I put loads and loads and loads of them in, you know, and I don't know what it was, $25 or something. It was like bags and bags of it, you know, and she put me through. She actually put me through, you know, to home. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Didn't do that too often. You don't want to be walking around with bags of 25 cents
Yeah.
on you know. So, but the operator was very nice because she allowed me to call home. So that was cool with what I had. Do you know what I mean? With whatever I had, and I think she actually made me stay on longer as well. She made me stay
Oh.
on longer as well. And then she said, "Sir, your time is up, blah, blah, blah." And then she cut me off.
Oh. How has Jenna felt about your career as a drummer?
She, she's super proud. You know, she's super proud of me being a drummer. And to the point of she loves music. You know, she's a singer, songwriter herself. So she's super proud. She's always happy to come and see me play. She loves to come and see me play. It's not very often because me and her mum are not together anymore, but we get on, so it's cool. But she loves to come and see me play. And and I think biggest, one of her proudest moments was seeing me on the big screen at like the O2 because she hadn't seen me for years, and then she'd see me on the big screen at the well, sorry, not the O2. Back then it was Wembley Arena, wasn't it? So she'd see me at Wembley Arena, um, and apparently she was going mad, you know. So yeah, she loves that. She loves what I do. She loves what I do, and continues to love it. You know what I mean? She loves to come and see me play, no matter what no matter what band it is, not just with Jamiroquai, but with anyone, with Matt, with anyone, really. So it's great. It's all good.
Um, I always get asked this, so I wanted to ask you. Are your
Tell me.
kids musical? And did you have any pressure to encourage that because of what you do?
No, I allowed the kids to make their own minds up. Absolutely no pressure whatsoever. And it just so happens because I've got three kids, two boys and a girl. So Jenna is the singer-songwriter. Luca, who's the youngest, is like a drummer, programmer, and producer, right? And Kai, I would call him he likes to DJ, so he does a little kind of bedroom DJing, so to speak. And he's also a very good listener, so he knows a good tune. So I would say he's like an A&R guy. He's good at the business side. So no pressure. I've never pressured them into doing any music whatsoever. So if they wanted to be an accountant or nurse or doctor or whatever, I completely support whatever it is they wanted to do. But it just so happens that during the course of their lives, they've touched on music. Basically, they've all touched on music. Whether they'll pursue it, I don't know. They're all young, so.
So I'm wondering, this might answer the next question, but how has you being a drummer influenced them as people?
They just see me as a cool dad.
Obs.
Dad's super cool. Thank you very much. How has it influenced them? I I think it's influenced them in a way of that it's kept them grounded. Do you know what I mean? Because they've seen me go through my ups and downs in the music. They've seen me get through the highs, through the lows. Um, you know, the making of music and stuff like that when I'm doing stuff at home. It's kept them grounded. They know what I do. They know what I go through. They've seen me go through the emotional highs and lows as well as the physical highs and lows. Do you know what I mean? And they've always been very supportive. You know, they've always been very supportive. Like when I've been I can say this. When I've been super skint. Do you know what I mean? No money, and then I've had to say to them, look, can't do this. Ain't got no dough. Do you know what I mean? But we will do it. And then they get it. Do you know what I mean? I go, oh, okay, then great. So no problem. So they're very patient as well. They're very patient, but they have been. I think I can definitely say with me being a drummer and me being the way that I am, um, it's kept them grounded, and I've always managed to instill that in them to work hard, to save, to be good with money, but to always be respectful to people, all that kind of stuff. And especially to older people. I've always instilled that in them. Do you know what I mean? So it's me being a drummer. It's definitely a kind of humbled and grounded me, without a doubt. And I just pass that on to them to let them know that do what you want in life. You have to work hard at it. And there's nothing stopping you from doing whatever it is you want to do. And with that in mind, they've pursued whatever it is they've wanted to do, and they've done well, and they're doing well, should I say, because they're still young, like I said, and they're doing well. They're doing well. So I'm very proud of my kids, all of them, and they have their ups and downs as well. And I just say, right, come on, we're going to get on with it.
How old are your boys now? Do you mind just asking?
Hi is 26 and Luca is 23.
Okay. Oh yeah, they
Yeah,
are. They are young, but they're sort of at the point probably where they're finding out what they want to do and working it out, and it's
yeah. Well,
exciting.
Kai, Kai is electrician apprentice, doing an apprenticeship in electrician. Luca works at oh gosh, what they called the microbrewery. Works at a microbrewery, where he's in charge of the vats, basically, to make sure that they're working properly, that they mix properly, and all that kind of stuff. So he's working at a cool brewery where they are. And Jenna is actually was working for it's a lawyer's firm that looks after lawyers who are basically in trouble. If they get complaints made about them, she has to gather all the information. That's what she has to do. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wanted
Pretty
to ask
stressful job.
you, yeah, it sounds like you would have to know a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of
It's
stuff to keep everything covered.
yeah.
I wanted to ask you about family life and how drum life, your job, has allowed you, or what it's allowed you to do with your family that you maybe wouldn't have been able to do if you had a regular job.
Um, Go on cool holidays. Go on cool holidays. I think having this job, of course, it's got its perks. You could get into certain gigs and all that kind of stuff. You, if you manage your time right, you could spend a lot of time, a good time, with your kids, like during. I'm not going to say during the holidays, but uh, you could go out, let's say during the holidays, I could then go out with the kids. Do you know what I mean? So I wouldn't be stuck to going to work. I could go out with the kids because maybe I'm not working, I'm not doing the session or something, and I could, we can go on holidays. We go on decent holidays. I've always tried to take the kids on decent holidays where, not like you not like Spain and stuff. We just go to, because it's all family oriented. So we'd hire like a villa. Do you know what I mean? And so we don't stay in a hotel. We hire a villa and take a flight and go on holiday with our friends and stuff like that as well. I think also just being able to spend time, like even with not just the holidays, but even within the UK, to go to certain places as well, really cool places, and just generally just hang out more with my children, getting to know them as well. You see, and getting to know my children. I mean, there was a point in my life where I actually kind of didn't know my kids at one point. I'll be honest. I knew them, but I didn't know, if you know what I mean, because I was so busy with um, the music life uh, and touring and all that kind of stuff. And it would just, I'll be recovering from all of that. Do you know what I mean? I'll be recovering from it. So I wouldn't spend much time with them, to be honest. So eventually, I had to make my mind up, make certain decisions, and just go, right, I need to just stop certain things, and then get to know my kids, spend more time with them, speak with them more, all that, you know. And it's been, I'll be honest with you, it's been great. It's been really good. Yeah, getting to know them again, not as babies, but as grown-ups, as you know what I mean, as grown-ups. That's the thing, when they get, you encourage them through school and all that. Because for me, when they're at school, they're still babies. It's once they get out of school and then they're working and doing all that kind of stuff, and you go, right, how are you, son? How are you, Jenna? Do you know what I mean? How are you? How's it going? How's it going, Luca? How's it going? What's going on? Oh yeah, it's all right. And then and you just get to know them. You know what's going on with them. You know, and the same like with them with me as well, so they can get to know me more as well. It's good to hang out and chat. We chat for a long time as well. The phone, I chat quite a lot I talk a lot with my kids because when we actually do get on the phone, it's like an hour. I'd be like an hour on the phone with them, just talk about anything, anything, rubbish, nonsense, anything, not all seriousness.
Is there anything that you think you would do differently then when you talk about that period where it got a bit trickier? Is there anything you'd change?
No, because it's a learning curve. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I am where I am now, because I've learned from making those mistakes, you see, you know. So I don't think I would change anything. No. And it's led me, and it's led me to where I am now, basically. So I'm very blessed and thankful to have survived what I got through, come out the other side, and be where I am now. Talking to you guys.
Well, thank you.
We're grateful for that. What's your advice for new dads who are going on tour, or dads who are touring and want to start a family?
Ooh, okay. Dad's going on tour. Dad's going on tour. I would say communicate without a doubt. Always communicate. You ring. You get up in the morning, ring. Ring when the kids get up, ring when the kids go to bed. Oh, better now with technology, you FaceTime, didn't you? So, but just stay in contact. You don't have to do it every day. You can do it every other day or something. Communicate. Dads. What was the other one? What dads drummers who are gonna be dad? Did you say gonna be dads? Was that one of them?
Yeah, so those who are already on tour and are thinking about it, just for those men who are listening who might be a bit afraid of how it will change their career maybe, or what to keep in mind.
No, don't let it change your career, because having a child is a big decision, right? That's the first thing. But don't let it change your career. What you should do is accept the situation as it is. You're going to be a dad. Now you have to basically take that responsibility on. But, depends on the situation, because some people's situations are good and some people's situations are not so good, right? So, if you're gonna be a dad and you're expecting a kid, no matter what the situation is, whether it's good or bad, just take on the responsibility. You have to take on the responsibility, because if you don't, it's going to bite you on the backside later on in life. Trust me, it will. It will. It will. Just take on the responsibility. Make sure you connect with your children. Connect with your children, no matter what. Just connect with them in whatever way you can, in whatever manner you can. Connect with your children. Or again, I say, keep in contact with your kids. You have to keep in contact with your kids. I say to everyone, everybody says, "Oh my gosh, you got 3 kids. How have you managed?" I'm like, I communicate with them. I just communicate with them. No matter what's gone on, personally with me and their mums. You know what I mean? That's a personal thing. That's a side, right? But when it comes to myself, connect with my kids, I make sure I keep in contact. And it's so it's really important to do that, because what they see at the beginning, they'll carry that through to them when they get older. Hence why you make sure that you see your kids as much as possible when they're young. It doesn't matter what if you're not with the other half, do you know what I mean? But you also just keep in contact with them. I can't stress it enough. Honestly, it's sometimes your kids might not even respond back. Don't take that as a diss. It's not a diss in any way whatsoever. It's just how kids are. They're just going through their thing. My boys do it. I contact them. They don't contact me for about 3 weeks. I'm like, all right, are you alive? That kind of thing. But we have a joke and a laugh about it, you know. So, but it's cool because they know what I do for a living. I know what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? And we just make sure that the communication is there, and because of that constant communication, what's happened now is that they call me. You're right, Dad. How's it going? Da-da-da. All that, you know. That's the you know, wannabe dads. And if you're going on tour, it's your job. Do the best you can at your job. Come home and be like the best dad you can be in every way. I tried.
It sounds like the best advice. I think, yeah, anyone who's heard that will feel reassured. Can you tell us what you've got coming up next? What are you working on at the moment?
I'm working on, so I'm doing some of my own material. And I'm getting Matt to help me with that, playing some keys and stuff. I'm touring with Purple Disco Machine later on this year as well. Oh, well, next month in May. And I've got some gigs coming up with Matt Johnson as well, which is going to be fun because he's got his new album out, which I played on, which I'm very proud of. And then he's got his tour starting in September, the beginning of September, but he's got a couple of dates in June at Jazz Cafe as well. And then we've got the whole of October rehearsal with Jamiroquai, and then we've got the tour in November, December, the start of the new album tour, because I've been recording with the band doing the new album as well, and DJing, of course, yes, and DJing as well.
Sounds busy.
So
that's great.
Yeah, it's very busy. It's very sometimes too busy at times. Sometimes it's just too busy. It's just too busy. As much as I say, oh, I'd really like to be busy, I'm like, okay, no, I'm too busy, you know. But I manage it. I do manage it, so it's cool.
Good. Oh, thank you for coming on. And listeners, I would like to say Derrick is as nice as he sounds, because I did a book launch in the summer last year, and not only did you come along, you were like one of the first people there. So listeners, he's the real deal. He's lovely. So thank you for being a nice human.
Thank you. I try my best. Do you know what I mean? I try my best. Thank my mum and dad for that. I love my mum and dad.
One of the first drum clinics that I went to was one that you did. Right. It was in Swindon. years ago.
Wow,
and you did
yes.
It was you and Sola, and you did
Sola. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and it was super inspiring. I think that's probably one of the reasons that I carried on drumming, was because of that. It was such a great event for me. So yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you. I'll tell Shola when I see him next. I'll tell him that. Thank you so much for having me, guys. You know, it's a real pleasure. It's actually nice to do this this interview to talk about that side of things. Because normally it's all about drumming, you know. But it's actually quite nice to talk about this side of things as well. So yeah, drummer mamas, they rock.
Thank you. No, we want to just have those conversations, because we personally weren't hearing them much when we were when we were starting families, and we're like, how are people doing this, by the way?
Yeah.
I know there are mums who drum and have kids. There are dads who definitely have kids and who drum. What's the secret? So we just thought, let's just talk about it. So we really appreciate your time and your insights and all of it. So.
No problem. It's a lot of it is about being. I suppose it's about being grounded. You're very grounded. You know, you've decided to do drumming and you've decided to make it your career. You know, so and you're doing very well, by the way. You're doing very well, you guys. The master classes are great. The camps are great. It's all fabulous stuff, and it's something you don't see very often. So I'm hoping that there'll be more female drummers who will be encouraged by what you do, because you're just not seeing it. It's not seeing it enough. So keep on pushing.
Thanks for listening to the Drummer Mamas podcast. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave us a 5-star rating because it makes us more visible to other listeners. And we really do appreciate any comments or reviews. It makes a difference. Thanks again, and see you next time.